In an age when America has never been more divided, one thing we can all agree on is ice-cold beer. I am Wes.
And I'm Ian. And we are in search of that local flavor that's bridging the divide and bringing us all together.
Houston, Texas is a sprawling metropolis, a true melting pot of diversity.
We found ourselves down at a recently opened Eureka Heights brewery, here with Casey and Rob, as they walk us through a selection of their brews. What we got here, guys?
All right, we got a little taster of our 5 kind of core brands we do all the time. So if you guys are ready for a beer, it's almost noon, so might as well get going. First one's gonna be Buckle Bunny. This is our American cream ale. Difference in this as opposed to some of the lighter styles of beers, we actually use corn in it. America really likes its corn, and turns out corn can give you sugar to make alcohols.
I understand you guys won an award for this recently.
We did. A major award. We entered it in the Great American Beer Festival, which is the largest beer competition in the world, and actually won the gold medal. We were not expecting that, but it's a very crushable, kind of 4.2%. It's a low alcohol beer. I think it's a patio pounder, a beer you can have all day.
Crispy.
Definitely. Yeah, session for sure.
So our next beer is Wicked Awesome. This is our English style pale ale, which is an ESB, extra special bitter.
Strong bitters.
And strong bitters, yeah. So more on the malty side, you get a lot of caramel, dark, fruity notes from this beer. You get a little bit of spicy notes from some of the traditional English hops we use in this beer. It's a very underrepresented style, you would say, in the U.S. right now. It's very popular in UK, London. It's traditionally cast, so the carbonation levels are typically pretty low on this beer. But we thought we'd try to bring this style forward here in the area and educate people on what a good beer this style really is.
Very clear.
Yeah,
You can smell the malt big time.
Yeah, I love malt.
So it's a Maris Otter malt is what it is. Everything's traditionally English ingredients except for the water that we use.
Do y'all have to treat y'all's water?
Yeah, we do actually. So we treat the water complete reverse osmosis system here at the brewery, and we add back salts to the water during the brewing process to represent certain beer styles. There are different.
Yeah, so the water for this is actually pretty similar to the water you'd see in London. A lot of beers, that's why Germans make Pilsners, because their water was soft and the ingredients they had made good Pilsners. Right. And you see that a lot. Really hoppy beers came from the West Coast and Pacific Northwest because their water worked well with some of the hops to accentuate that. We strip down, because we do a wide variety of styles, we strip it down to hydrogen and oxygen, and then we add back every beer almost like you would add a different hop or a different malt. We added completely different water profile.
You have to completely reverse engineer the actual beer.
A little bit, yeah.
From the water.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So each beer has a different water addition profile that we use.
Water is so exciting. But it's important. It's 95%
the backbone,
of beer.
right?
So without the proper water, you're not going to get a great beer.
Right.
What did y'all actually do before y'all started brewing beer?
I was an engineer for 15 years in the energy industry.
What sort of engineer are you?
Mechanical by trade.
Oh, wow. So that probably comes in handy trying to operate a brewery.
We run a chemical plant here when you look around, and that's really what it is. We just get a pretty fun chemical by the end of the day.
I get to drink the chemical.
But as far as production side, I mean, we're dealing with pressures, temperatures, some chemicals for cleaning, things like that. So definitely having to be able to wrap your mind around that, how pumps work. A lot of stuff breaks around here.
Oh, right.
So being able to,
super handy.
Yeah, we're basically just mechanics at this point.
We've kind of noticed walking around is quality control at this level. You guys are still pretty new.
Yeah.
And yet, quality-wise, I've been tasted a couple of things now. It seems to be pretty even. I mean, have you guys had any quality issues?
A little, yeah. Not at least anything that's made it out to the market, and that's the thing. Like
Catching it before it gets out.
So we've dumped 3 batches, and we're proud of that. There was an issue, production issue. Right. One was kind of a malt, and one was a yeast, another part of the process, and we caught it and they weren't bad beers, but they weren't right. And when we're trying to make sure if someone orders a mostly harmless, which is gonna be our next beer, and they had it 3 weeks ago and they order it again, we want to make sure it tastes the same. Even if it tastes fine or tastes like a good beer, if it's different, that's going to confuse them and they might be hesitant to order it again. Yeah. So,
There's something to say for brewers that will be responsible for what they put out and say, this is not the product I want to put out and say.
As a brewery, if you're not dumping a batch of beer, you're not doing quality control.
Absolutely.
So that's,
Totally
we
agree.
stand by that 100%.
all right, this is our pale ale. It's called Mostly Harmless. It's only 4.5%. So the beer I would make take tailgating, great patio beer, good summer beer. But what we do a little differently than say any of the ones we've had is we dry hop it. So this beer uses a German malt, a German yeast, but then we use this really kick-ass American hop called Citra, and it's pretty much all we use. So you get this kind of depth of flavor. I get a little more orange and grapefruit. I've heard guys get a little lemon, some lime. Very simple beer, basically one malt and one hop, and it's want to get really quality stuff and get out of its way.
I definitely like lemon and lime. It's a cool kind of thing to get out of a beer, but it's not like prevalent to where it's like, oh, this is Sprite. No, this
is my kind of pale ale.
No, it's session IPA you see a lot, and we're big Douglas Adams fans. I don't know if you guys know Douglas Adams, but Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So this beer, one of my favorite books, it's one of the titles of the books is mostly Harmless, and I just always stuck with me as like, yeah, it's not completely harmless because it's got a little bit of alcohol.
Most people, this sounds like a cool name. That's a really cool background.
We had a lot of time waiting on permitting and construction. So a lot of brainstorming sessions just to keep us sane.
Kind of one of the things that I was curious about is how you guys go into the process. I mean, it sounds like naming is an in-depth process. So coming up with a new idea for a new beer, how do you guys go through that process?
Kind of depends. A lot of it, I'd say kind of maybe we find an ingredient. So we're always trying new hops or new malts or different yeasts, all these different varieties that are out there. So we might kind of gravitate towards something like this is a really cool malt. Right. We need to kind of see if we can figure out a beer for it. Or like I think the beer we just came out with, Pallet Fatigue, it's a double IPA, this big aggressive, really like almost 9% IPA. We just kind of wanted to do something like that. Right. So we've tried to find hops. And so part of it's kind of picking a style. Our sales guys are great because they're out there like looking at the market, kind of seeing what's out there, maybe what isn't, and then where do we fit with that. So it kind of depends. It's kind of half, this is a really cool ingredient, let's figure out something fun to do with it, and half like, what haven't we done, what's kind of different. We like our wheelhouse, our real approachable, sessionable beers, but it's fun to do something out there, and you get a whole different crowd, different people try your beer when you're doing a 9% stout or a bourbon barrel-aged beer or a double IPA, that are just going to kind of come and drink your cream ale. So I think it's important to do a little bit of everything.
I noticed on the Pallet Fatigue, there was a hop on there. I was curious, the Azaka? I hadn't heard of that before, so I had to look it up to see. So I thought that was interesting. That was one of my questions was like how you pick that hop.
When I was at a different brewery, did a lot of hop selection. They were much larger, had a much bigger checkbook than we do. So we got really good treatment when we went up to Yakima Valley or Oregon. Everyone's taking us out to dinner. But I don't get that anymore, but at least they pick up the phone when I call. So it's a lot of chatting with farmers, chatting with guys, and then working with them to find newer varieties, things that maybe are different profile. And a lot of them, these farmers are growing, I mean, some suppliers might have 10,000 unique varieties of experimental hops on their farms. And they're trying to see what makes sense for them to grow, what do brewers want, are their crop yields good on this one and stuff like that. Right. And it's a process, so they want a lot of feedback. So we've really tried to work with some of the newer varieties that might not even have names or anything. It's HBC 4789.
Number designation.
And you don't know what you're gonna get. And some are really, really cool and unique. Some are less so. And maybe they're pushing that because they had one, you could have swear it had coconut in it.
Really?
Like, as you're smelling the actual hop, a flower smelled like toasted coconut. Next one, this is one of our 2 year-round IPAs called Space Train. So sort of the last beer, we did a single hop, really citrude with all of this. We actually used 6 different hops in this beer. So you get sort of a different, I say like a bouquet effect.
Yeah, it's definitely more complex on the nose.
And so we use Azaka in this one. We also use Mosaic and Centennial, El Dorado, Idaho 7, and Magnum. And what you get is a little bit of pine, little citrus, definitely more of that bitter grapefruit peel.
I feel like it's more balanced than the other IPA. It's just like, everything is kind of, not muted, but everything is like.
You see the layers?
It's got a higher bitter.
But nothing is like really like boom, boom. It's all like real balanced. It's really good.
Again, very clear, very well filtered.
Well, we actually don't filter anything here. So.
Just let it settle?
Yeah, well, time. I mean, we realized people were making beer, 10,000 years ago, but 200 years ago, they didn't have filters. They didn't have a lot of ways to do this. And time in the beer process does a lot. So we've seen if filters, you're gonna lose a little bit of flavor and a little bit of aroma. There's just no way around it. Maybe not much in certain cases, maybe a lot depending. And that was something we didn't want to do. We wanted to make sure that everything we put in the beer actually makes it to the final product. Awesome. So what that means is that our beers take a little longer to make, but we think it's worth it. As we continue to grow, that might be a headache, but we think it's really worth it. We don't force the beer. Beer's a living organism, so it'll tell us when it's ready to go.
Right.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you see that again back to the water as well. That's another added expense that we we're going to do it because it's better for the beer.
As a beer consumer, I 100% agree.
Last one. Look at that. So it looks a little different than the others.
Darkness.
This beer is called Moo Caliente because we really like our puns.
The udders in space.
Yeah. So this.
I'm literally just trying to visualize that.
Oh, well, you can look behind us. We have flaming udders flying through space.
It's
That was the design that sold us on our branding company.
Really,
We're like,
absolutely.
I think you get us. You have a cartoon cow with flaming udders flying through space.
Oh my God.
So this is our year-round stout. So it's a milk stout, which means we add a milk sugar called lactose back to the beer. Gives a little bit of sweetness, and usually balance out that sweetness with, say, bitterness. That's when you're cooking anytime. We went a different route. So we had cinnamon and cayenne.
It smells amazing.
They say it's like Mexican hot chocolate. It was one of those beers, home brewing, we're like, it's Houston, it's hot. People won't really go for a stout. We did a batch of it in August when we opened, and people loved it. This is different, and the spices really do help lighten it up.
It's not like you really have cayenne. So it's like a little burn on the cinnamon. That's it.
You get in the back of the
So
throat.
you get a little tickle back here. And it's interesting, as you say, have a pint, and you have a couple more sips, like eating hot wings.
Burn
like,
goes up a little
the first
bit.
one's not too bad.
Oh, really? It turns it up?
Yeah, a little bit,
So-
yeah.
Does it go up to 11? Can we turn it up to 11?
It was fun test batching that beer.
Oh, I bet.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. And there's how many different kinds of cinnamon do we have?
Yeah, it was 3 different cinnamon. We learned way more about cinnamon than we ever cared about when we were developing this beer.
Yeah, ingredients. It's got to be like, oh man, you got to deep dive on everything.
And it's important to make sure anything's quality. So like for this beer, we would just go to the grocery store and buy some cinnamon and try it out. And then when we're really trying to like, man, we're gonna do this, we actually talked to cinnamon suppliers and went to some local spice shops that import and do blends. And we talked to them and had to learn a lot. And now, like, I'm spoiled. My spice cabinet is like way more expensive than it used to be. Because you go to these and you're like, holy crap, like I've never smelled anything like this.
All this variety.
Different levels, right?
We use, it's a blend, it's Chinese cinnamon, Chinese, Indian, and Mexican cinnamons. Or Chinese, Vietnamese, and Mexican. And they all have different qualities. Some are real earthy. One is exactly what you would think of cinnamon, but one has this really unique kind of earthy, almost like herbal quality. And we thought it added a lot of depth.
I think it really shines with the beer. Like it's
good.
it's cinnamon, but it's like
It's not punching
it's
your
like
face cinnamon.
special. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah, it's really good.
That beer does really well at festivals.
Back to your water system. I know that you guys have a pretty fancy water setup. And I was doing some researching this, and I understand you guys sort of open your doors ahead of the hurricane to hand out water. I mean, if you guys wouldn't mind talking about that and how it affected your families.
I mean, we're fortunate that we, at a brewery, need a lot of water. So at any given point, we have around 6,000 gallons of water that's been filtered, sitting in a tank, ready to be heated, to be cooled, to whatever, to be part of the process. And it was actually one of our drivers, our distribution guys, was like, couldn't find water for his house. Like, because it was the day before the hurricane was gonna hit, and everyone had already taken all basically the water and all the goods from the grocery stores. They just like,
he couldn't get anywhere.
Right, it was ransacked from every grocery store.
and he was like stressed out about it. I was like, we have 6,000, like,
Come on over, fill it up.
Anything you can fill up. And he's like, that's great. We're like, I bet other people. So we just sent out a Facebook message and tweet. If you show up, we'll fill whatever you want.
Since y'all have done that, which is a great thing to do. I mean, you didn't have to do anything like that. Has the community had a different change towards the brewery? Besides, obviously, you're an awesome brewery.
I think just in general, I mean, the community's always supported us from day one, and it feels like we just need to do more to support them. We're in the middle of a neighborhood. We get so many people that walk over, bring their families, bring their kids, that just ride their bikes. And like from day one, we felt so much support from all the people. And we didn't know. I mean, we're a brewery. We make beer, make alcohol. But I mean, the second building in the U.S. was a public house. I mean, it's where people come together. So we just are always trying to think of ways we can work with the community. We've worked with the Houston Food Bank, and now we're starting to work with some charities and try to do more with that because we feel like it's what we're responsible for. If people support us, we got to do what we can to support everyone else.
That's great, man.
Is there another beer that maybe we didn't try yet?
I think we need to talk about Mini Boss.
Yeah,
Mini Boss.
let's grab a little
I'm
bit.
pretty excited about this. This is I don't even think it's listed on your site as a regular, but I understand that might be something coming up.
Yeah, so Mini Boss, we released, what was it, February this year, Casey? Or last year, sorry. And the popularity grew tremendously for that IPA, so we are going to make it as a year-round offering in 2018.
Okay.
So it'll be part of the core 6 brands that we
Look
offer.
at those fancy glasses.
Oh,
Little tulips.
the tulip.
Make the tulips kiss though, dude.
Yeah. Now, this is one of our kind of aggressive IPAs. It's all Mosaic and Citra hops, so we really like Citra going back
Speaking
to that.
my language.
Mosaic's definitely a hop that very aggressive. You get all sorts of like blueberry, these different fruity qualities. You get a little tangerine, you get a couple different things like that. I think it's really, really enjoyable. Definitely a beer we just did as a one-off, thought it'd be fun, and that response was great. So it's been pretty cool to see that.
This is pretty good. This is
Pretty good, that's what we're
my
shooting for,
style
so we
beer
appreciate that.
in the 6 to 7% kind of
This
range.
is that's more
Little
my
malt,
session.
good mouthfeel.
I'm a little bit more of a self-indulgent person,
He's up in the Imperial range.
right?
Well, that's fresh as of Friday. Yeah.
Fresh AF. We're not sure what AF stands for on our beer board.
I bet this. I would be willing to bet this probably warms up really nice. Let it sit out for half an hour, 45 minutes.
You'll get a lot of good notes out of that in about 5-10 minutes. So yeah.
Outstanding. Well, shall we toast it out, gentlemen?
Yeah. Cheers, guys.
Yeah,
Well, thanks
thank
for
you
coming by to
guys.
hang out
Casey,
with us.
Rob.
Yeah.
It was great meeting you guys. Thanks so much for having us. We really appreciate it, and best of luck to you.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, guys.
Cheers.
Our visit to Eureka Heights taught us what it is to be a business that is also part of the community. From the ingredients in beer, to the people that work here, to the local Houstonians who frequent the tap room, they are the essence of what it is to capture local flavor.
2 years after they opened, Eureka Heights has expanded their operation to include a canning machine and now has beer distribution at local grocery chains and bars.
We look forward to seeing what the future holds for them.